Walking back toward Winstead Hall, Harriet scarcely noticed the turns of the path or the birds calling in the leaves. Her mind was full of this fellow Jack. Why had he made such a strong impression on her? She'd met handsomer men, certainly. True, some of them were perfect stocks, about as lively as a statue. Jack was the opposite of that. His zest and vitality drew one's gaze. She'd had to resist watching him, even when he wasn't indulging in a bout of impudent wit, of which he seemed to have a boundless supply. Miss Snoot, indeed. In the privacy of her solitude, Harriet smiled as she walked. He was different from anyone she'd met before, she realized, and that made him memorable. This Jack had a jaunty sense of freedom, as if he might do anything at any moment, whatever he pleased, in fact. He made Harriet imagine boundless liberty, a thing she'd never had in her life. The very idea made her wistful. What would it be like to roam with the wind, to have no obligations? Harriet had lived in a meagre household as a child, become a sometimes despised working pupil at her exclusive girls' school, and then had one whirlwind London season during which she'd never quite found her feet. She'd not met a rogue outside the pages of a novel. Young ladies were carefully kept far away from such people, for good reason. But this Jack hadn't felt dangerous. As a poor girl with no social power, Harriet had learned to detect unsavoury intentions. She'd had to fend off an oily dancing master at school, among others, and she'd felt no such threat from Jack. He seemed charming, fascinating, nearly mythical. Perhaps she would call him Jack in the Green when she saw him again. And there, her train of thought stuttered to a stop. Of course, she wouldn't see him again. Now that he was lurking around Ferrington Hall, along with the travellers, she couldn't walk there. He'd taken that option from her, narrowing her world, as so much seemed to do these days. Resentment bubbled up, tinged with a curiously mournful disappointment. But life was seldom fair. She'd learned that very young.